Alrighty, we are back with your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly, and we are recording episode number 481, and this is live on Tuesday, September the 8th. Hopefully everybody's had a great long weekend. For many of us, my kids are first day back at school. I think, Brianna, how about you? What's going on?
My oldest has been in school, but my youngest had first day of school today, which is, equal parts exciting and terrifying
Yeah, yeah.
this year. So, but it's good. Super small class, and she was so excited to go, and so I'm happy for her. And yeah,
It's
but
a
it's
new
like,
world, though, right? It's a new world. We all have to adjust as parents, as
yeah,
kids, as teachers, as whatever, how it's going to work, and we'll see.
kids are resilient. Kids, like, I mean, at least the younger ones, like they're resilient. Like you have to put on a mask. Well, all their friends have on a mask, and they're cool. Like it's fine, but I think it's us as adults that have a harder time adjusting and transitioning. So, you know, we just are trying to do our part, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's all you can do, right? Is kind of just go with the flow, try something. If it doesn't work, try something else, right? Yeah, I mean, we're all adjusting, and every
Yep.
day is a new day.
One
So,
day at a
yeah.
time.
Anyhow, all right. Well, let's see what else. My Raptors lost yesterday. That was super disappointing. Jays are winning though, and they're even ahead of the Yankees. I mean, that's like unheard of. Like
Freddie
they,
Freeman got his first Grand Slam. First
yeah.
Grand Slam.
There you go. There you go.
And
I
two at
saw
that,
that.
actually.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The MLB put out a story this morning saying the best team in New York is the Blue Jays because their home stadium's in Buffalo right now. Which is
Yep.
kind of fun. But anyhow, yeah. So there you go. At least there's sports. At least there's something to watch. Well, we have a good show for you this week. We have four industry news stories, new no guests to talk about, but a wide array and a range of things that we're going to cover today. And I'll let Aubriana start us off.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool story. We've been talking a lot about sort of what's old is new again, and how people are using these times to be creative, and how they can, bring things to consumers and what that looks like. And this story comes from Colorado. It's from Mancos Creative District. And they have this group of artists that is there. I guess it's more of a artsy center. You think of, there's a lot of like really cool art towns out that way. You think of like, um, what is it? Is it Sedona, Arizona, and Tucson, and kind of like some cool towns like that. And I haven't been to Mancos, but I'm assuming, this is another very cool art town. And so there's some artists that have gotten together, and they refurbished some really old vending machines to sell art in different coffee shops. And, they've been selling a little bit here and there, and like sold about $400 worth in the first month. And, the proceeds are obviously going to compensate the artists. And there's a coffee shop and then a cidery where they're currently in. And there's about 24 different artists that are working and providing different pieces of art for the machine. So, the project, I think, has caused some artists to think a little bit differently about some of the things that they are creating. So obviously, like, what can fall into a vending machine and still be okay. But they're working on different things like some, greeting cards and prints and some music, jewelry, different things that can be safely packaged up and used. And I think this is really cool. It's also thinking about how else can we make these bespoke items, available to people, whether they're coming into a coffee shop. So, I love finding things that are really unique, and, not something that you would just find off the shelf in your local grocery store or pharmacy when it comes maybe to a greeting card or just artwork or even jewelry. So I think this is really fun way to deliver that type of a unique sort of experience, and how you buy these types of items that maybe you would usually get like at a fair or at, just different kind of outlets where a lot of artists are. But, these days we're just not hanging out in those types of numbers and going to those types of places. And so being able to sort of get these in front of people, one by one, and allowing them to interact with it on their own terms is really, really cool. So I like this. I like that they're thinking about things outside of the box, and, by putting things into a box and selling them. And I just think it's really cool. We've seen a lot of like new vending machine type of stories, I guess, that have come out since we've been in COVID, like what people are doing, whether they're selling masks or other things, and how people can interact with those, and, maybe just keeping the human interaction a little bit more at bay for this type of shopping. So I think this is fun. And I like to think about what else can we do like this, right? What else is available? So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's super fun. It's very creative. It's a neat way to use a vending machine, and especially like I think that idea of what you said earlier about finding something that's not sort of available everywhere. It's just local. It's unique in that way. I think it's interesting. I think if something like this were to take off at scale, I would love to see, maybe a partnership with somebody like an Etsy or, that type of thing where, they have, these types of branded machines teaming up with artists and giving them a physical place, not just online, but giving them a physical place to actually sell their wares locally. That would be really cool to see that type of, relationship evolve. I think it's fascinating. When you say thinking about other areas, I was like, I wonder what else could be done like in a similar way. And I was like thinking, I wonder how many like jukeboxes are still out there, if they could be like refurbished to like highlight music from like local artists that are up and coming, in those venues, or like all kinds of things like that, right? That just tie local content, local creative to venues and places to kind of create those experiences. Because at the end of the day, when you think about retail, and I say this all the time, if retail is going to be successful, physical retail is going to be successful, it has to be experiential. It has to be about something you can't buy on Amazon or something you can't get anywhere else because it's so unique. And if you can't buy this stuff because it's not commercially available, it's only in this vending machine, that's part of it, right? And maybe there's like meet the artist, on the weekend, or whatever. Like you can have all kinds of things that you can do that I think are unique about this. So I'm excited about it, and especially like I don't know if you saw the news about the weather in Colorado these last couple of days, but I saw they broke the temperature record. I think it was yesterday or the day before. It was 101 point something. And then today it's supposed to go from 101 point something to 38. And possibly snow.
Oh my God.
So like there's some like massive cold front coming down the middle of Canada and the U.S. And yeah, so people are going to want to be indoors where these machines are.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah, what's interesting is that like around Mother's Day, I actually had bought my mother and my mother-in-law different things that I found like from their state or from their area that were locally sourced. I think it was on Amazon, but you could find like it was like shop local dealers there. And I thought that was really cool. And, you think about all of the different like delis and coffee shops and things that are all around different cities. And a lot of times people come from other places, right? Like they have their roots that have been from somewhere else. Like, here in Atlanta, maybe it's like a New York deli. And so you can, kind of get like that experience through the food, but it would be great to pair that with like experiences from the artists and stuff that they have inside there as well. When you go to pick up your coffee or your bagel, and now you can see like some other interesting art or music, or like you said, different things that are locally sourced, maybe from where those restaurants and coffee shop owners come from, that make them kind of great, right? So there's a lot that definitely could be brought in and tied together and create these experiences even in your hometown. Like it's hard to travel right now, but maybe you can kind of just go down to pick up a coffee to go, and you get a little bit of an experience, culturally from somewhere else.
Yeah, I love it. Great idea. I think we could see this all over the country. It doesn't need to be in our only kind of focused towns, but I could see this all over the place. All right, on to our second story. Google Maps is teaming up with a company called Passport in Austin, Texas. And what they're doing is they're enabling you to pay for your parking in Austin directly through Google Maps. So basically, Passport is a service that's been operating in Austin for a while. They have an app called ParkX. They worked with the city over the last year and turned that into Park ATX early last year. So basically, the city's parking team has been working on trying to make the experience of finding parking, paying for parking a lot simpler, a lot easier. And now, in teaming up with Google Maps and subsequently Google Pay, which is part of this, basically you can find the parking spot, pay for the parking spot, all integrated through Google Maps. So there's no need to kind of leave the platform, and it's all seamless in one place and facilitated through the Passport, app on the back end, I guess. So that's it. Simple story. It's all about making things easier for people, and I think it makes sense. I think especially for the younger the population, the more tech savvy the population, the better that this is. I'm still personally, I'm still like I'm kind of halfway between, right? I'm like I still carry some cash in my wallet, and I have Apple Pay on my phone. And things like that, but I don't use it everywhere. I don't even think about it all the time necessarily. I'm like, and sometimes I still pull out my debit card and tap my debit card most places and things like that, when I could be tapping my phone, or what have you. Whereas my daughter, it's all Apple Pay. Like, it's all she does. She taps her watch, she taps her phone. Her card is linked in there, and that's it. But I think the name of the game here is customer service and seamless experience, and I think this goes a long way to do that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that what's really frustrating is like when you think about where you might pay for parking, a lot of times it's places you don't frequent. So, most people who, for example, most people who commute into a city for work on an ongoing basis, if they're not working from home right now, but, before or in the future, it's, you've got your parking situation kind of covered. There's not a lot of people who are parking like, on the street typically. They probably have a garage or somewhere that they frequent and go, and that's kind of handled. So for me, when I think about like when we're on vacation or when we're going to the beach and we need to have parking or anything like that, the idea of having to download a separate app and install this or, do all of these different things, I think can be a little frustrating. So anything that can incorporate into something that you already regularly use, it's very easy. Likely you've already stored your payment there. I think that is a good customer experience, good consumer experience on a phone. And I am one of those that actually I hardly ever have cash on me. And I do have my debit card, but I prefer to use Apple Pay, and I really only pull it out if they don't accept it. So for me, I think like the less that I have to like touch and dig in my purse and find what I need, the better for me. And so I like this idea of making it more seamless. And, I think there's more ways in the future to continue to push those boundaries, whether it's through, through Google or just through, maybe the device itself and like the sensors that are there within that, and sensors like in the parking lot, just making it super easy. I know that some of the newer parking situations here in like the shopping centers and malls actually have like smart parking where you can see where parking is available. And if you were able to just pay for the spot based upon like your phone and that device that is underneath the parking space, that would be perfect, right? Like you don't have to move, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to go find the machine or print out anything and put it on your dashboard. It's just done. So I like the idea of making that more seamless for sure.
There you go. All right, on to our next story.
Yeah, so Reveal Mobile has released a location-based marketing benchmark report, and you should definitely go and check out the report for yourself because there's a lot of numbers and statistics that are in there. But some key things that I kind of pulled out and looked at is that there were two interesting stats that they stated from other publications. So eMarketer states that investment in geo-targeted ads is growing at 40%, which is really interesting to me. I would not maybe have expected that that growth rate. I'm not exactly sure what that's based upon, so I need to do a little further digging there. But also, Mobile Marketer has stated that nearly 90% of digital marketers use location data in campaigns. They didn't say like at what granularity or what level. But they did this study, and the study was of 116 different digital marketers at agencies and brands. And basically, roughly half of these marketers who reported have used location-based marketing prior to COVID, and are now either using it more frequently or spending more on the strategy. So they're kind of looking to how they can use this. Obviously, I feel like people are moving around a lot less. People are only visiting places, that they need to frequent, such as the grocery store, maybe the drugstore, picking up prescriptions, maybe some other smaller things like family. But also 9% of marketers are relying on the demand side. Only 9% of marketers are relying on the demand side platforms to run their location-based marketing campaigns. So 12% do not target via location-based campaigns at all, and 7.5% said they look to other means to target. So what I think is really interesting is I feel like I have seen a lot of news and reports about how things are shifting from cookie-based targeting, from location-based targeting, from strictly, the IDFA and the MAIDs and the precision geo-targeting to more contextual targeting, right? So looking at other means of context, like maybe not where people go physically, but maybe digital behavior, different things that you can leverage off of your first-party data has become more of the forefront and what marketers are looking at a lot. So I think it's interesting that and I think location is still important, but I think the strategy behind it is shifting drastically. So I think that before we were looking more at attribution, right? So there was a lot of companies that were using location data to say like people who saw this ad actually converted and went into the store. I think that's being used less and less now for several reasons. One, I think that it's being used less because the breadth of data that is necessary for that level of granularity in order to attribute those types of ads is just not at scale. There's not enough scale to say that this converted into this many people in foot traffic. It's really hard to measure. And so we know that as you get more granular with location data, the coverage that you have is going to significantly decrease. The other thing is obviously like privacy, technology changes, all of those things are starting to come into consideration. So I think it's more been shifting towards like propensity scoring based upon maybe it's block level data or postal code level data, or just what's going on within this radius of a certain size within certain neighborhoods, and what's the score of this to convert for specific products and verticals and different things like that. So I think that it's really interesting to see that. You can check out the full report, from Reveal Mobile. Just head to their website. I'm sure you can download it there and get lots more information and data points on kind of what trends are happening right now and shifting. And we're sort of in this flux mode where it'll be interesting to see, what those questions were answered now versus what they're going to be in 6 months. It could be very different, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to add to what you've already said. I think it's a fantastic report. There's a lot of data in there, a lot of numbers in there. So I encourage people to go and download it, check it out, and kind of dig into it, especially if you're a brand or agency. I think there's a lot of relevant, value to what they've put in here. I think in particular for me, kind of the discussion on, the CPC and CPM numbers and kind of what those look like for location-based audiences versus non-targeted, geo audiences is very interesting. And the part, where they talk about, sort of the value of these two different industry segments, I also found quite interesting. So they said like 31% of health and beauty and fitness companies are running geo-targeted ads right now, versus all the way down to the bottom where, 11% only of toy and hobby companies are running geo-targeted ads. And I found that interesting because, I think about both as somebody who has kids, and have just come through, months of COVID. I think about, almost like, in some ways, you'd almost think it should be the reverse, right? Because, if you're not, maybe if you're not going into the physical world, you're not going into your office, you're not, um, having to put on, makeup and dress up and all of that in the same way that you would normally. Um, maybe that's, sort of less of a target versus, lots of people I know, at least families with kids, are trying to find, toys and entertainment, and I'm talking prior to school starting here, crafts and things to do. So you'd think there'd be a lot more investment in that, but I don't know. So I'm kind of surprised. That the top is health and beauty and the bottom is toys and hobbies.
Yeah, it probably is more focused on like self-care. So when I think about like health and beauty, I'm probably thinking more like collagen peptides and things to take
Yeah.
care of your skin, as well as like, maybe protein and supplements. And then you think about the fitness stuff like at home gym things, or uh, workout routines that you can do like in front of the computer that, most people are not going to the gym anymore. And then obviously though, if there are gyms that are open and they're trying to promote that they're open, they need to be very like specific to where they are open, because there's many that are not, but there's some areas and locations that have reopened them. And so probably those campaigns need to be very targeted so that they're making sure they're showing the right information to the right surrounding area. So
Fair enough.
maybe.
Fair enough. All right. On to our final story now. Amazon has announced a new product, an augmented reality product called Room Decorator. And this to me could be a game changer for a lot of people. So, when I read about this, I really initially I was like, another AR product, another, place something, in a virtual room and kind of see what it looks like. But as I got deeper and deeper into it, I started to realize, wait a second, there's really something here. There's something unique about what they're doing here. So what it is it lets, users of Room Decorator see, objects, see things placed in a room, and kind of, so it gets you a chance to visualize, what the objects look like in your room, in your space. Obviously, over the years we've talked about IKEA has been doing this, Lowe's has been doing this, paint companies have been doing this with paint colors and all that kind of stuff, which is all great. What's a little bit different about this though is you can place multiple objects that are available in Amazon into the room at the same time. So you could grab a desk and grab a lamp and grab a TV and grab a whatever, all different items from different brands, all available on Amazon, and place them all in the room all at once and kind of see what that looks like. So that to me in itself is very interesting. And so that's one aspect of it. The other part that I'm really excited about this is that you can basically take a snapshot of the room that you've created and save that as a room to visualize later. And you can take this on the road with you. So let's say you've created your room, or you got this saved snapshot of your room, and then you're out, out and about doing your shopping, and you pop into a store and you see something that's really interesting. You can then kind of pull it up on your phone, the room that you already created, and then take that object and stick it into your room. So it's portable in that sense. It's not just this one-time experience that you're just playing around with. You can kind of take it with you, as you're out kind of visiting different, furniture stores or different kinds of stores, and finding things out there in the physical world that you want to kind of pull into your virtual room and kind of see what they look like. So you can save a snapshot of your room. You can visualize kind of, what these items look like while you're shopping away from home on a mobile device, as well as obviously seeing it while you are at home. And if you're not yet committed to making the purchase, then you can save an image of the room furnished with the potential purchases from Amazon, and then store those basically as like a wish list in Amazon for later, that you can kind of come back to. So I think this is like well thought out, a super kind of brilliant way to, have you pull multiple objects into a room from different brands, from different companies, all at once, and this ability to kind of take it on the road with you while you're shopping away from home. I think is brilliant.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting from a business perspective that they're opening this up, that you can try other things not from Amazon, right? I think that's really, I think it's great as a consumer, right? But from the business perspective, I think it's really interesting that they're doing that. I also think that Amazon has so much, in the home goods area and that vertical, but it's a hard purchase for people, likely because you can't necessarily visualize how it's going to fit or how it's going to look and all of those things. And so having the ability to bring that in before you make that purchase is great, because obviously, like, returning a bed or a chair or a kitchen table is not ideal for most people. And so I think that, making more, being more sure of your purchase is really a great thing. So I like it. I want to play with it, obviously, and see how, I can kind of redo my rooms and adding little things here and there. So I think it's really fun, and I think that they'll get a lot of use out of it. And ultimately, I do think that it will drive more of the purchases that they have, of the different home goods that they offer within
Yeah.
Amazon, which is obviously a ton.
Yeah, and they're not alone in this space, right? Like I said, IKEA's doing stuff. Wayfair's got AR in their platform as well. But I think for me, the uniqueness is the multiple objects, different brands, stuff that they don't carry, taking it on the road with you. That's a little bit different. So I think it's super interesting. I would love to play around with it. So there you go. All right, well, that's our show for this week. You've been listening to episode 481 of Location Weekly. We thank you for listening and watching. If you have kids back to school, peace be with you. Hope it all goes well and that your kids are okay and all of that. If you've got feedback for us, story ideas, reach out to us. We're easily found on all the channels. If you're watching the video, contact info is at the end of the show. And of course, we'll be back next week. Have a great week, everybody. Have a safe week. Stay COVID free, and we'll be back to talk to you in a short time. Bye.
Bye.